Okay, so I'm watching this documentary, excuse me, Out of the Shadows, and it's discussing, at least at this moment, some things that I've come to be confronted with of late, and beginning to better understand the reality of the validity of it all. Like the extent and the pervasiveness of the programming, which initially the shock can send you. It breaks your mind. It's so inconceivable. It's so inconceivable that it's real, that it's true. And again, by design, we're we were programmed to believe that anything like that would be insane and crazy, through the media that we take in, through the narratives as they were presented to us. We were indoctrinated within. But anyway, I could talk about all that like a million different directions. But the thought I just had was, at this point in the documentary, they're discussing how, like, this something called like Project Mockingbird, and how we were directly influenced, like everything I was just saying, by the television and movies that they put out, and that it was meant to give us a false sense of reality, right? And that's all effective and true, and that all happened. Something that I don't think they accounted for was within the ubiquitousness of doing that, and that, you know, everybody consuming movies and television, and that would be baked within us as not just something that produces our illusioned false reality that we believe is real through this, but it has also then provided us with shared narrative understanding. Like, I don't know if the word would be like proverbs or folk tales, or what I'm thinking about is, as I was listening and watching all this, like, different thoughts are popping in my head, and I keep having this like resounding awareness of like the truth of humanity, though, and the resilience, and that even if we're all waking up to this, like, we are innately good and possible creatures, right? And so the thought that popped in my head was the idea of the Who's in The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. And after the Grinch took all the presents and all the things, you know, he's sitting there. He's like, "Yeah, you're gonna hear everyone crying." Like, his intention was to ruin it. And what he didn't account for was like, as much as they were all about the Christmas and the gifts and the da da da, the true nature of their spirit was they went outside and they still sang the song, ah, who noticed, da, 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 da. And like the Who's just went out there, and that broke the Grinch. It was like, what do you mean they didn't have their Who hobbles and da da da? Anyway, so I was thinking, like, that is what the reckoning of this all now, that even if we don't know what to do, even if we don't have a response in place to, like, in this example, like, replace the gifts and the Christmas dinners, and like, even if we don't have a plan, humanity is still that which, like, waking up to the really stark, sobering reality, we're kind of like the Who's that will come together, and that we weren't infected, in that we are the evil and ugliness that infiltrated those that created these systems. We are perhaps influenced by them, but we have not become them. And what I'm getting at is, even just my ability to articulate what I'm trying to express about humanity using the Dr. Seuss story of the Grinch Who Stole Christmas as my like vehicle to do that. And that I know that at least with a Western audience that is a point of reference. That is a shared communication that transcends so many different things that we would be able to articulate to one another. What I'm getting at is, I don't think what they accounted for in that giving us all of these movies, television media that was effective in having us have a false sense of reality and all of these things, what they didn't, I don't think, account for was you have also provided this network, this global network of people with metaphoric, shared history and emotional narrative. Most especially, like, I was just thinking of the Who's as the example that sparked this thought, but like, one of the amazing things about television and movies is that you live out the experiences, or you get to emotionally kind of get invested in something that you've never lived in this current reality, as the individuated experience and expression that you are this lifetime, right? And it's such an interesting thing. I've thought about in different capacities, meaning about like the implications that has on like people just like sitting at home or sitting on the couch and almost like living these multiple lives, that we can get caught up in like watching television and movies. And we know that more and more with like social media and the internet, like that you could just be like consuming content, but you're not like living a life. Anyway, I think that's something that they didn't account for, underestimating the human, is even though this was their plan for mind control of the masses, that technically was effective for a time, losers, that the innate goodness and potential of humanity is the part that they underestimated, because that is it, like everything that they didn't account for, like we can use as our strength. That when we wake up from this delusion, there is so much that can be utilized and alchemized for our rebuilding, for human resistance, and that the light overcoming it. Meaning, like, yeah, sure, like, I don't know if this example is going to translate, but like, if you were giving people things to keep them sick, let's say like medicine or whatever, and it was like kind of distilled to the population and to keep control over them, but you sent the medicine in, let's say, these like super like old school crude like wooden boxes. I don't know if this is gonna fully translate, but like, if at some point under that mind control, like you took away resources from people so that they couldn't build things on their own in this example of reality, anyway, like you didn't account for how many boxes you sent all humanity over the years, that like what they can build with the wood, like the byproduct you didn't consider can be the strength in our overcoming. Like what they might not have accounted for in the development of television and movies and media is that, yeah, it's a great means of mind control and getting an entire population to have a false sense of reality. And that worked for a time or whatever. But what you didn't account for was everything else that doing that has armed the people with, that we could now articulate to one another. First of all, processing the experience that we're all having in waking up to this, but also like complicated, nuanced feelings, emotions that become crucial in the times to come, both in, again, processing it and coming up with plans of what to do next. And again, just through being able to relate points of reference through movies, but then also like from things we've seen, like, oh, like in that movie where that one person like rises up, or when that thing happens, like we all now have a similar language, media-based language, concept, story, narrative-based language that will enable us to come together and respond to this revelation in a way that I don't think that they anticipated. Like in the same way that something that is made for good, it's like, I remember when social media first came about, like the initial response, at least with the lay people, I don't know what the fucking evil crew above's plan was, but I remember at first we were like, oh my god, this is like, it was like only a good thing, like you're gonna be able to like stay in touch with people that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to, and you get to keep up with them, and like what an amazing thing, and blah blah blah. And we now live in a world where we know the other implications, what other things can become, even if the initial intention, so as we understood it, wasn't for that, like that social media has become this really what's the word I'm trying to look for, like I can't think of the word, but like it's a devastating force on humanity, like not good for the homies. But and I use that as an example of like unintended, unanticipated sort of offshoot of effects. That those can also be for the positive for us, and not maybe for the nefarious intended purpose of what the industry or these things were built on. Like that example of social media taking a hard fucking left and becoming something that like we've become addicted to and has all of these adverse effects and is even best for humans and blah, 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 like all these things that we're contending with now, and that being so different than like the hopeful, like this is going to be the best, or same thing with the internet in general, like there's, and I think we always look at that as the unintended effects in terms of the bad parts about it, like unintended effects, and it's fucking, we didn't anticipate this version of the worst, or this adverse, like, yeah, adverse effect. And I think in this scenario, the people that created these things would consider it an adverse effect, but for us, the affected guys, this adverse effect is advantageous to us. So it's that in their attempt to control the masses through our media intake, an unanticipated byproduct is this shared narrative language that we all now have access to, that I think can and will be quite powerful. And I don't think they knew they were equipping us with that. Like, I often think of, like, V for Vendetta, like, that in this industry that has in so many ways been effective within their mission and goal of controlling us, blah, 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 that unintended value from things they created that was meant to just control us. There's so much unintended value that can come from that. But also that, like, I think real artists slipped through and created things, provocative things, that we also consumed, that they might have not considered that big a deal because in the moment it didn't cause humanity to rise up, and like that wasn't the thing, let's say, to like wake us up, like watching V for Vendetta then, or these different things that didn't make us in that moment, but we're all equipped with it now. So in the time of reckoning, when all of this is coming to light, we have a backlog of shit that didn't get us moving and motivated then, but that prepare us for the resilience necessary now. And I think that that is a chink in the armor of their underestimation of the truth, resilience, and inherent goodness of human nature and the human experience, like humanity. Almost like, and this isn't a perfect like example, but like almost like, you know, you can raise and keep a chimp for so long, but there comes a point where that chimp can rip your face off. So like you kept it tamed and you thought you had this sense of control, and it was true for a time, but then there comes a point where it's, oh wait, time out. I could absolutely destroy you. Like that game we were playing of you being in control of me, like the very nature of my being as a chimp can absolutely destroy you. Like that entire lived experience agreement is shattered. Like that is what is happening now. Like while it seems like within, you know, how we experience lifetimes in these incarnated experiences, it can seem like it was going on for so long relative to a lived lifetime experience. But in reality, if we're looking at things over lifetime, like these nefarious fucking, this whole attempt is like having a baby chimp up until it's like, I don't know when it becomes full grown where like it can fucking destroy things. I think it's, let's say, like 3 years old or whatever, that it seems like they fucking had us in diapers and was making us do things, and you know, we weren't living to our potential. We didn't realize the strength that we were, like, what we're capable of, what is our innate nature. And I mean this as humanity as a whole. And so what looks like this effective control they've had and this reality that they were able to execute is kind of like not impressive. And it was like for a time, and it could never go on forever, like, because relative to that, like, we're like the 3-year-old chimp. It's like, oh, time out. Cool attempt, but this is what it is. We are like, we were always going to win. Like, we were always going to overcome. And again, you have to be able to be in relationship to that outside of like a different relationship to time, because some of what I'm saying could be entire people's lifetimes. So like they only ever lived under the illusion that these people created. But relative to humanity as a whole, like, this fucking horrible, demonically influenced group of people, like, they're just like a shitty little chapter. And useful as a point of reference of like, oh, look what was able to be done to humanity. Like, look what was capable. Like, we could, it's all just better. It's more information for us to gather, but like, we can absolutely overcome all of this in a way that it's like they had short-term success. Like, yeah, word, okay, so you had like, humanity fooled for a time, but like, it wasn't a long-term successful plan. Like, it's all gonna come to a head now, and like, it didn't prove anything. It was a temporary sort of like example of like influence and whatever, but like obviously we were gonna overcome it. Like, almost like you can't control nature, like, in whatever feeble attempts, or like, no, nature's gonna come and fucking knock you down, blow your house down, knock you over by a wave. Like, just shut up. Like, you're not, like, just no, right? And like, that's what I believe, like enslaving humanity ultimately is. It's like, no, we're always going to override and overcome that. Like, of course. Like, even us all coming to light now, like, it's gonna be fucked. And again, maybe fucked for a lifetime. Like, maybe within these incarnated experiences and expressions that we each and all are, that might ever hear this, that maybe we don't see it, but like, if we think about things in like a different way, that we're part of something bigger than these incarnated little moments, that like, we'll be fine. We'll get through it. And we're gonna like, all these people that a lot of their response is like anger, and they want justice, and like, great, that's great. I mean, this is part of like the brilliance of humanity, like the will to fight and overcome. Like, we're gonna win ultimately. Like, it's gonna be ultimately fine. Now, again, we might have to make peace with, maybe not within our lifetimes, but like, ultimately they weren't gonna pull that off for a long time. And it was, and they weren't even like sophisticated enough plans that like, I mean, maybe for like the people that first made it, they get to live in like, look what we did, little time. But like, ultimately, like, your plan sucks, and it's not going to be forever. And so, like, watch it fall. Like, it was never going to, like, that power and influence was never going to last. Anyway, that was kind of a tangent. All born of my thought of the Who's coming out. But yeah. But I think that something tricky, and I think I'll find tricky, because I feel great in these inspired moments, and I'll like see things. But then, tomorrow, living the day to day, like, definitely going to be easier said than done if this stuff doesn't get sort of like fully rectified within our lifetimes. Like, that's easier said. I've had, and this is where I'm gonna end, I've had this thought before of like the first homies that came to like the New World, and like, they had to build everything, right? Like, they came and it was just like grass and like indigenous peoples, and especially if they were coming from like European society where like there was fucking streets and fully built structures. And I've thought about like that didn't all happen quickly. So there are a group of people that went from this like civilized, at least in terms of like the way that one lives, like went from that to like walking in like mud and their everything being shit and having to like just do everything from the bottom up, and that didn't change like how long those things took. There was at least some people that was their whole lifetime. Their whole lifetime was just shitty, muddy roads and fucking really hard trying to like make a fucking farm and like deal with these native people, which like I'm saying that crassly, but like, you know, like that it was just like a clusterfuck of like, they were doing this like you're welcome to like everything that came after. But like there are people that like those pioneers that lived like a fucked stupid whole lifetime, like it was their whole lifetime. Anyway, like I remember that was like, that's a thought I've had of like because sometimes I could like think of things in relationship that we're more than just our lifetimes that we're identified with right now, these like incarnated experiences and expressions that like we're part of something else. But like some of them, like, because there are times where like like things are really hard for me, or like, you know, just I keep thinking that like it's like the arc part of my story where like all of a sudden everything's going well, and like if it keeps being hard for like even right now it's like way longer than I expected, there are times where I'm like, motherfucker, am I in the lifetime of like stupid money streets, like of like, because that happens too, right? Like that while we all want that like narrative arc of like it becoming better, and it can within its own micro narratives within, and sure, but like some lifetimes are like, that's what you're doing. You're like in this brand new place that you have to like start everything to the beginning, and everything's really kind of hard and kind of fucking smelly, and everyone around you's kind of fucking smelly. Like I like that's just like, and that's a fart. Like it would look like a fart of a lifetime, sort of. And sometimes I've thought about that like with myself. I'm like, motherfucker, dude. Like, am I in a really great for the future version, future people's lifetime? And in some ways, maybe like we all are, like always are. And within this initial thought or like sort of context that like we might have to make peace with us being a part of the beginning of this ultimate dismantling that will happen. Like, can we work as hard at really hard shit without the requirement, expectation that we're gonna see the resolution within this lifetime? Like there's a really great quote of like people who like plant trees, like plant trees for others to have shade that they'll never experience. When you first plant like a tree, like however long, it's a really eloquent, it's a really nice quote. I'm not able to remember it properly right now, but just as a concept, and like I remember that gave me a chill. Like I fucking loved it, of like doing things, and we all do this in different capacities, like homies that care about climate change and stuff, like it's for future generations. I think that perhaps that's something that will at least be partially useful in maybe measuring expectations, or how to access the kind of resilience that might, now again, it might happen much more short term, and that would be sick, and we could all like bask in the life after the dismantling and what that might look like. But there also might be a version of this that, you know, we don't experience personally the other side of this, the utopia, the time that follows. Maybe we don't get to sit in the shade of the trees that we're planting right now, the seeding, you know, as it were. But yeah, so basically, we're the Who's after the Grinch stole Christmas and all of our presents, and we're gonna be fine. We're gonna sing a song and hold hands. And if we remember, the Grinch came around, it made his heart go a couple times bigger, and he gave all the presents back. Like, maybe we transmute the monsters, the villains of this story, the force that infected them, and they are, you know, the Grinch at the end of the movie. All right, well, let's see if I ever post this anywhere.